So yesterday was Good Friday, which means tomorrow is the big one, Easter Sunday. And I just want to chat about one tiny little detail that happened the moment Jesus died. It's like a blink and you miss it kind of detail, but it's also like this is going to change history forever kind of detail, okay? So it's in Matthew 27 and it said, at that moment, that's the moment that Jesus died, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. At that moment, the curtain that had been put up in the temple to keep people away from the presence of God, the curtain that was so heavy and so thick in weight and in implication, was torn in two from top to bottom. It was the only thing that was separating people from where they thought God's presence was. They just weren't allowed in there. It was not a place for them. They weren't clean enough, they weren't right enough, they weren't pure enough, they just weren't enough to go in there. And the moment Jesus died, it was ripped in half from top to bottom. This is what can seem like a really little detail in the story, but there's this really famous story that is set in the Civil War. And so there's this farmer and he's got off to war, and so is his dad and so is his brother. But on one of his breaks home, he notices that the farm that has been left with his mum and his sisters is really struggling. The family that have been left home are not coping, and so he decides that he is going to go to the president and let him know that his brother has died, his dad has died, and he could really do with going home. He could really do with surviving to help his family out and help on that farm. And so he decides to go straight to the president, and he does. He goes to Washington, he goes to the White House. The president at the time is Abraham Lincoln, and he quite obviously, quite predictably can get nowhere near him. Like, obviously, it's the president, it's war. He can get nowhere near the president to make this request for his life. So as he's sitting in the grounds, just like frustrated and exhausted and wondering what to do next, he's just sitting there, and this child comes up to him, noticing that he's distressed, and says, "What's wrong with you?" And so this farmer turned soldier, turned survivor, shares his story with him and says, "I need to go and speak to the president, I need to go home." And so the little boy is kind of like, I can help with that. And so what I imagine would be quite reluctantly, the soldier goes off with this little boy and is astonished as this child walks straight past all the security, and then another layer of security, and then another. All of the doors get opened for him, all of the rooms he's able to walk straight through, and this guy is like, how is this kid getting me so close? And he does, he gets the soldier right into the Abraham Lincoln's office, right into the president's office. He's gone past all of that and he gets him right there in the room with the president. And it's at that point that he notices that the child who has led him all the way in is Abraham Lincoln's son. That's why he was able to get through all the security. That's why he was able to cut through all the red tape. That's why every door opened for him. He was Abraham Lincoln's son. And that's a really amazing story just in itself, but it's a really amazing story when we realise that this idea that the veil was torn from top to bottom. Jesus has taken us all the way in, all the way to his Father. He's taken us all the way in. There is no door that can stand in your way. You will not be left waiting ever again. There is nothing that can separate you from getting to God. There is nothing that can separate God from getting to you. There is nothing. No mistake, no skepticism, no need to have it all figured out. No, nothing. No, nothing can get in the way of you and God. There's you and there's him, and there is nothing in between. Jesus made sure of it. And it's what he died for. He led you all the way in. No one and nothing can ever get in your way again. Never. Not because of anything that you've done, but because God's Son came and found you and has taken you all the way in. You're loved and adored and seen and known and understood. You are all the way in, whether you realise it or not, whether you believe it or not. You're all the way in. There is no outsiders. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday, tomorrow is the big one, and it's been a total joy to journey through this week with you. And what I'm praying for this whole week, but especially tomorrow, is that it doesn't just remain one day in your year. Not this year, not 2020, I'm praying it becomes your year. That this week, everything we've spoken about becomes the lens through which you live the other days of the year.